Hello, everybody. This is July here. Welcome to the webinar, middle of summer, and looking forward to having some good conversations today. Today we have Jed Trott on our call with us here today. He is the master of knowing how demand programs work and capacity and all these programs. And he brings it into a simple method for everybody. So stay tuned. He's going to be coming on a little bit later. Meanwhile, how's your summer been going, Allie?
Oh, awesome. It's been a really great summer so far. I know everybody, kind of takes vacation and we have some ups and downs a little bit, but I just got back myself from my family reunion, went down to the beach, which was really fun. So that was awesome. But now we're back in the saddle, just rocking and rolling. And it's been a really great month. We've got some really, really exciting things happening at Box.
So
It was
cool.
great having you down in the office this past week. So yeah, great to get everything going. How's your summer going?
It's going good. It's great to see everybody last week in the office as well. It's been a few months since I've been out there, so I had to skip it last month. But summer's going great. I mean, a lot of travel here in the past month. One more trip planned in the immediate future, and that's to see my son in California. So super excited to go see him. He's interning out there, and then and I'm here for I'm gonna be here like 3 weeks, which is Chicago's a great place to be in the summertime. So I'm excited for that. Tipa's coming up here as well, and so super excited. But right now it is like you walk outside for like 5 minutes and you smoke a pack of cigarettes. So if I start coughing or something, it's
We'll meet you.
That's what it's like. Air quality here is probably the worst I've ever seen. It's literally like you're walking outside, you think you're in, you're too close to a bonfire right now. Literally, that's what it feels like. But so I guess let's get started. Anything new at Box this past month?
There's been a lot going on over at Box. We are really looking forward to expanding our products and services, but great. Glad you asked, because I do want to take a minute for those who are new to us. Broker Online Exchange is one of North America's largest energy brokerages and part of the AppDirect family. So just want to introduce ourselves on our webinar here. We do this webinar monthly for all of our advisors, brokers, consultants. We work with thousands of agencies across the United States, all across North America, providing access to a broad supplier network, pricing tools, market intelligence, and operational support to help independent energy agents grow and scale their business, and help everybody take advantage of deregulated energy choice, and soon energy efficiency all across North America. Whether you're placing your first deal or managing a large energy portfolio, our goal is to make the process just simpler, faster, more transparent, help you with whatever you need, so that you feel that you have delivered the best service, best product, and best fit all the way around for your customers. So if we can help you do that, feel free to reach out to Broker Online Exchange or to AppDirect to learn more about some of our programs. Our network is one of the, like I said, one of the biggest in North America and only growing. And we, like I said, we have these webinars monthly. There's a bunch of different things that you can get involved with as part of the ABC community and as a Box advisor, Box broker, AppDirect advisor. So definitely reach out if you guys are interested. So that's my little piece on Box. And
I'd like to add that, Ellie, I'd just like to add to that real quick. I mean, it's like, really, with our team we have here, you can utilize us, and we're often on the calls with customers directly, and we put on these calls, and we basically expand your team. So we deal with a lot of people on this call. You're like 1-2 person shops. You can look like a 40-50 person shop by bringing on like a couple strategic advisors. Like, hey, I'm gonna bring on my advisory team here, my strategy team, all that stuff. So we are here to utilize this as a resource, and we have high success in pushing the close rate. Oftentimes we've done some stats on this before, where we've tripled the close rate if you bring us on a call with a customer. So just to remind you.
No, that's definitely true. I know sometimes it's having a second voice, but a lot of the time it's bringing the expertise to speak to some of these markets, exactly like we're doing today. And I know, Scott, you've had a little bit of a market spot. We've changed our structure recently. So I know that we've had some developments in the market. Is there anything that you want to get to and highlight a little bit ahead of our talk with Jed?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm pretty much going to warm up Jed here for sure. Here, what did you? Can you bring up slide one, please? Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to bring this up because this is part of the discussion here. I like to show this chart here because this is kind of showing, and this is year 2027, the strips. Natural gas is down 75 cents year to date, or over the past year. So 75 cents natural gas is down. Look at these power prices though, like in Mid-Atlantic, up $19, up $2 in Midwest. New York's up 15, New England's up 21. Those are huge, what we call heat rate moves, where heat rate's the price of power versus gas. So that's big margins typically that the generators are making, and there's a power being bought there. So these prices have just completely escalated. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit of why now. So let me show slide two. And this is the recently, actually last week, there was an auction that took place for 28, 29. So, and in that auction, there was a cap, $325 for the price of capacity. We hit the cap. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, everybody predicted that. With that, the reserve margin came down to 14.7. They're targeting usually around 20% for this reserve margin. We have been below that, and we now went even more below it from last year. So this is all kind of being expected in the market. So if you got to remember one thing, prices are going to squeeze out some way or another. Whether you're going to pay for capacity and pay through it for that to bring on more stuff, or prices need to go up to bring on more stuff. And that's really what's been going on with the pricing in very simplistic terms. And typically that's really this load is typically all the growth of it is typically from the data center load, which we got a piece coming out here in a couple of days about discussing that a little bit more and discussing the future and discussing pricing right now and all that. But with that, if you go back to slide one real quick, I'm going to show this gas screaming by right now, screaming by. And it's below $4 for literally like the next 4 or 5 years. And that 380 level or so is the cost of production. That's come up quite a bit in the past 5-6 years. So these levels, it's hard really to make money in gas, and eventually needs to kind of get back up there. So it's kind of at the floor. We call it the floor. Power, on the other hand, I think has a lot of things baked into the price. I think it's a little bit overcooked. And with that, there's some uncertainty. And with uncertainty comes strategy. You need a strategy. And with that, I'm not saying the price can't go higher. It totally can. But it also can go lower. And with that, we were recommending here right now doing more partial hedges, going out through the curve versus buying full power. And we can get more into that with your large customers if you just reach out to us. But go to slide 3. And this is kind of really looking at this. This is the load forecast. And this is really want to put it. This is PJM's load forecast. It comes out annually in January. So 2025, we hit 160, right? 2026, they predicted 157. We've already hit up in the mid 160s area. We've already hit this levels, which is the forecast for 2028 summer, which we just had this auction for. So we're already we hit levels this year, which they projected to be the peak summer load at the beginning of the year for what we just had an auction for. That's kind of scary. And that's why we've had some elevation and definitely had the elevation in pricing here. So just keep that in mind. That's really what's going on in our market. We kind of focus here on PGM. ERCOT, completely different. Of course, the prices have come down. Doing a great job with the grid there. Battery storage has hit up 10 gigawatts for one of the hours out there. And recently, which hit that level, which is incredible. They've done a great job with the grid and just kind of managing it. But they also haven't had big firework temperatures yet this year. But prices are relatively tame as they have been, and which is really interesting because they don't have a capacity market. So great job and kudos to ERCOT for that. But we'll move on there. So that's really all I have here for a market update.
Cool. Well, thank you for those outlines. I know that capacity auction was, I mean, big news without being big news. If that,
Yeah.
since it's still at the cap, but I know you guys will get into that. But on the kind of layered and managed purchasing strategies, and on all of that insight that you just gave us on kind of the divorce between the value that you can see in gas prices versus the value that may be available over the next couple years in electricity prices. All of those types of insights are things that we're distributing to our team every single day. We're looking at these energy markets every single day. If you guys want to know what's going on, whether it's PJM or ERCOT or maybe New England, or maybe you want to talk about California, remember that we're national and we look at both power and gas, and we've worked on every side of the market. We're happy to tap into the resources across our portfolio to deliver expertise if in the odd event that it's something that's outside our wheelhouse too. So just wanted to plug our team one more time. And I know we want to get even more into PJM and all of those pieces with Jed here.
Yeah. So just real quick introduction on Jed here. Jed's like Director of Distributed Energy at FreePoint Energy Solutions. He's been there since January 2022. He's actually based out of Philadelphia. I'll give some more background himself, but he spent over 14 years at Customized Energy Solutions and moving through PGM's demand response roles from analyst to a VP, and he's just really interesting background. He's a graduate from the University of Pennsylvania. He's super active on LinkedIn, so everybody up to this call follow him with some really sharp commentary on PGM capacity auctions and other subjects. Really interesting stuff. So I'm glad to bring him on board when we bring Jed into the room here.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Welcome, Jed.
You guys having me on. This is a lot of fun. I wanted to jump right into that discussion when you guys were talking.
Yeah.
But I know that's not the format.
Yeah. How's your summer going, Jed?
Pretty good. We're going on vacation to Western PA in a couple of weeks. My wife's taking the kids to the shore next week, so it'll be a little quieter around here. But yeah, no, similar to you, Scott. I mean, this haze from Canada is crazy out here. Like the sun is red. It's like post-apocalyptic wasteland out here in Philadelphia too. So hopefully we'll get some rain this Saturday, and that will clear out some of that because this is not livable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully it does. And so tell me, Jed, is your wife with the kids when she's taking them out? Is she's driving a bus, right?
Yes. Well, we got a Ford Transit 350. If anybody knows what that is, it's a 12-passenger van. So yeah, I do have 10 kids and 8 at home. So it's 10 always kids. A party around here.
Amazing. You got 2 basketball teams, right? So
yep.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to hear the stories and talk to Jed, in person and stuff. So, but yeah, Jed, let's go right into it here. I mean, so what's your thoughts here on this? Well, first of all, tell us a little bit more of the background. I gave a real broad level.
Yeah. So, how I got into this industry and where I'm at is mostly luck. So I started at Customized Energy in 2007 as just an analyst. I was banging around from thing to thing, working on FTRs, doing custom billing for retail deals that didn't fit into the normal billing system. Ended up working as an analyst on bringing a large electric co-op into the PJM system out from underneath another co-op. Which was very interesting because it gets involved in all the different aspects of what it means to be a large customer in PJM. And then I just ended up in demand response after that project was done because there's nothing left to do on it. And after that, I worked my way up to being the head of the demand response efforts over at Customized, which was fun because we were doing things nationally, and it was all back office services for customers who didn't have wholesale participation. Mm-hmm. So that was like, residential demand response in California, which was wild. Vehicle to grid stuff down in Delaware with the University of Delaware. And then just, we had everything from churches and chicken farms to large industrial steel mills that were in ancillary service markets. So a lot of fun and learning in terms of exposure. But while I was doing that, I was looking at the market and the value that customers get out of it, and also just all the complexity that's in it. And I was saying, hey, if you're at a retailer, all that stuff comes into your bill, and it's your job to manage energy risk anyway. So I felt that it made more sense to do this stuff from behind a retailer than as like a standalone aggregator or a third party. So that's what brought me to FreePoint eventually.
Awesome. Great stuff. So for our listeners that are we got listeners who are kind of new to the industry, quite a bit of them. And so in simplistic terms, what is demand response?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. So what is demand response? Basically, customers who have the ability and appetite to reduce their usage during times when the grid is stressed can get paid to do that. And so that takes a lot of different forms, a lot in different markets, but that's the basics of what demand response is.
Okay. Gotcha. And so with all that, like kind of what do you see like right now is like kind of the biggest misconception maybe like brokers and users have about demand response and really capacity markets right now? Like,
yeah, I think so. From my perspective, there's a couple of things. One of the things is, I mean, we've all seen a lot of ups and downs if we've been in this industry a long time, right? So you see prices go up, you see prices go down, and that's sort of a normal thing that happens. And so sometimes we don't get too worried about it. So I see some of that as being, maybe complacency in how brokers view capacity in these markets. And so you see things like people pricing at the floor as opposed to at the cap or on an average. And I know a lot of people are doing that. So if that's what's happening, you kind of have to go with the flow. But I don't think these prices are going to come back down in 5 years. If anything, they're going to go up. So just one thing from the auction that cleared last week, the price at the cap was $325 per megawatt day, as you mentioned. The PJM simulated price for if there wasn't a cap was $576, I think, maybe $574. And then the ComEd price was $776.
Yeah, I saw that. Day. I saw that ComEd price and I was absolutely like, wow, that's
right.
That would make it, am I correct in these estimates? Probably for your average customer in ComEd, your capacity cost would be like $40 to $50 a megawatt hour.
Yeah.
That is
that's
mind-boggling. Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think, like it's around a 20 gigawatt zone. So yeah, that's a lot of customers paying a lot of money. Now, that's a simulation. I don't know if that's going to come to fruition, but one reason why I think it will, or something similar to that number will actually be a print in the next 5 years, is that you have this continuing data center appetite for new load. And they're actually running a backup auction for the data centers starting later this year. And that's supposed to absorb 9 gigawatts worth of generation without a cap. And so the reason that that's important if you're not a data center customer is that if that does happen the way that they plan it to happen, that's going to be 9 gigawatts of generation that doesn't come online to serve the rest of the load. So that's all just to say, there is no white knight magic generation or transmission solution that's apparent to bring prices down and supply the appetite for load, especially up here in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Down in Texas, it's a lot easier to build things. Here, it just seems we don't know how to do it very well when it comes to large infrastructure projects. So it's hard to imagine how that's going to get solved, even in the intermediate term. I've never seen this. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the industry, about as long as you have, and maybe slightly longer. But I mean, also you got to remember, from 2000 to say 2023, it was flat load growth, right? So
Yeah.
it wasn't any worry. It was like, okay, we're retiring, 2 coal plants. Let's bring on 2 natural gas plants. Okay, done, easy. And it's like that. That's simple. And now it's a complicated thing. Is this supplemental auction for data centers? Is that going to be the capacity that's being procured now? Is that for like one plant a year, or is that multiple plant years?
I believe it's a 15-year auction.
15 year. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
you're right. Then so 9 gigawatts to be taken off for 15 years, and if they can secure and it's unlimited and it's $500-600, those generators are going to be extremely happy with that. So
Oh yeah, yeah. And those are new generators, so it's not like they can take existing generators off the system. But a new generator that would otherwise have come onto the system to serve, pizza shops and steel mills or whatever, is now going to serve a data center instead. So it's the new generation that won't be available to bring the price back down.
Interesting.
Because we normally say, what's the solution to high prices? It's high prices. And I think that's generally makes sense in economic theory. But in this case, there's just a lot of pent-up demand.
Well, and also, I mean, that is an axiom in the whole commodity industry, right? High prices, high prices. But that's easy to say if like, oh, we're just going to ramp up productions and tap some of our wells, right? Boom, okay, natural gas production is up 3 or 4 BCF, right?
Yeah.
But or we're just going to grow more corn this year because there's there's demand for corn.
Sure.
These are projects that take 3-4 years to build, and on the minimal side, right? And it's not so quick to bring it on, and there's just a lot of pain that would have to come through. That's something that's insightful. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday, I think it was, maybe last week, news came out that New York is looking at building a nuclear power plant. The same model that they just built down in Georgia a few years ago.
Okay.
Which took, I don't know how many years it took, but it cost, I think, $11 billion per gigawatt.
I think the cost came in half of what they projected initially. Oh, let's reverse that. It's double.
Yeah. Wait, scratch that. Reverse it. Yeah. So, and who knows? That's and then we're running up against the barriers of how many. We're just going flat out on how many CCs we can build, combined cycle units we can build. Even CTs we're at our max, and so we're getting down to the point where people are getting backup generators and stringing them together to supply sites. So yeah, it's crazy times in terms of that. And I think it's important because, I have my standpoint as a demand response guy. But from a supply standpoint, I think you got to have the conversation sooner rather than later with customers that the floor price is not actually happening at PJM, because they're going to come around and they're going to see, that extra cent eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a great point. And we're talking about demand a few different ways. So I want to take a step back and say, because our audience on these calls is generally pretty mixed. Mm-hmm. Whenever we're talking about customer demand, what does that mean on an individual customer basis? Why should customers pay attention to that? Why should their brokers help them to pay attention to that? And what's at stake for those guys if they ignore it and say, okay, well, that's really technical. I don't care.
Yeah. So, the short answer is money.
Yep.
And, if your customers care about money, they're going to eventually care about this. So, right now the price is about $325 per megawatt day for capacity. And, there's a lot of money in transmission as well. So that for normalish customers, that translates to about 2 cents on a deal. And maybe a few years ago, depending on where the customer was, that could be could have been 1 cent. It could have been half a cent. So because there's transmission costs that come into play as well. So this is mostly PJM. So that's on the demand side of the equation. So what we're talking about here is like coincident peaks. Costs that are allocated to customers based on when the whole grid peaks. So that money factor matters a lot right now. And I don't talk to customers about their supply that much because I'm not on that side. But I can imagine it's a bit of a hornet's nest with prices going up $20 on the commodity side, prices going up 10x on the capacity side, and steadily rising on the transmission side. So 7, 8, 9, 10% a year, and that just keeps happening. So relief, it's hard to find relief. One of the areas that at least you can talk about relief with, so there's two aspects about this. One is if customers have a native appetite to reduce their load. Okay, so what do I mean by that? If they can cycle air conditioning, if they can pre-cool if they're a cold storage facility, if they can change their production hours or scheduling if they're a manufacturing plant, if they're metals and they can melt more metals overnight or on the weekends and avoid afternoons, just all different things like that, then you can have a conversation with a customer and say, hey, you can reduce your cost by a penny overall, or you can reduce your cost by a penny and a half, or whatever it is. That may be a very attractive conversation to have with a customer. Now, having said that, most customers are in business to do whatever their business is. So they're not in business to not use power. That's what I've discovered over talking to hundreds of customers, maybe thousands of customers over a long time. And some of them have even, cursed me out on the phone because I called them during an emergency that they agreed to reduce their load for and didn't want to reduce their load for. So always got to keep that in mind. So that is one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is that there's just a lot of money right now during those red hours in the year. So it's a lot of pressure in terms of your bill. But, the flip side of that is that if you take that money and flip it around, you can fund projects that reduce your load during peak times at your site. So whether that's backup, whether it's backup power that you've always wanted but couldn't afford, or it's a battery, depending on what zone you're in, or efficiency projects that change your load shape, there's money to get things done that didn't exist before. So that's the way to sort of look for a silver lining in this situation.
Yeah, 100% makes sense. And we've been talking a little bit about different ways to reduce demand, and want to get into a little bit. There is a difference between reducing demand versus plugging in behind the meter generation and some battery storage. Mm-hmm. So walk us through that distinction and how a broker should think about which path might fit a given customer.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the way I think about this is that there's just always a cost, right? This is a situation that there's a cost that needs to be paid. And that cost is for using the grid at peak times, right? So in a sense, it's like anything else. You could just not buy it, right? Like if you want to say, what's the price of a banana, and you think banana prices are too high, you can just not buy bananas. And then you're gonna have to buy something you don't like as much, maybe like green grapes, or, I don't know, give me a fruit that's not as popular. And so you don't get any bananas. And that means, so you don't get capacity, you don't get to use power when you want. But most customers want to use power when they want. So historically, and even now, I think most customers' default mode is just pay the price, use the power during the peak times, or buy the bananas. That's not your only option. You could also say, so let's just dig into that one a little more. What it takes to do that, so what it takes to reduce your load during peak times, is you have to identify those hours. So the grid operator doesn't publish those hours. They don't say, these are the hours that you need to reduce during. And if you reduce during these hours, we're going to pay you money. So you got to figure it out. And generally, even if you hire someone to help you figure it out, you're going to have to take the risk on that advice being correct. And having said that, you also don't know how many hours it's going to take across a period of time for you to get the correct hours. So there's risk on two sides there. One is you might, make a mistake for some reason, not be able to make a reduction during the time where you need to. And the other one is you might have a lot of hours of lost production, wasted wages, things like that you don't want to have. And I'll say, to that end, my experience is it's really only the most dialed in customers who are super successful at doing this with their own load. A lot of customers try it, nibble at the edges, maybe make, a 10% reduction, which isn't nothing. But it's not, making a big difference and moving the needle. So that's how it is on demand reduction. Your other option there is you can sell your banana back to the grid, which would be participating in demand response programs. The problem with that right now is they're just getting called so much because there really isn't enough power to go around. And so even though we've had a lot of heat that's, somewhat abnormal, it's not crazy. And PJM is calling demand response events, calling them all over the system and calling them for a lot of megawatts and hours. So that's painful. And, I've seen customers leaving the demand response programs because of that.
And Jed, real quick on that, I just want to point out too, right? If I'm correct on this, from like 2013 to like last year or something, there was like one demand response event called.
Yeah.
Now
right. This is not normal.
There's like a half dozen, and there's already been like a half dozen this year, and it's like, and that's probably going to continue here. So with the reserve requirements at.
Yeah, that's exactly what you were getting at before, Scott, with the 14% reserve margin.
Mm-hmm.
And some people say, well, PJM runs their grid conservatively. I'm not going to get into that argument because operators know more about running a grid than I do. And it is a big footprint with a lot of complications in it. But yeah, the fact of the matter is that you have winter events now, you have multiple summer events. And in the past, you just had a test once a year. And this is going to date me. When I started doing this, there wasn't even a test. You just signed up and you got paid. So it's definitely changed.
It's like I was describing somebody the other day, like, it'd be kind of cool to be a fireman, just hang out in the firehouse, and then you're just like, oh, that was a major fire, I'm quit, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm retired. I'm done being a fireman.
Yeah. I'm not a fireman. I sell ice cream.
Yeah, I'm done with this job. If you're like fires, I'm out. Yeah. It's like, it's interesting because so now, are you saying it's kind of, would you say it's more essential? I mean, I know like your Bitcoin miners, they're easy to cut, right? Because it's like, boom, so simple. Shut down, bring back up. It's all economic anyways, because they're just converting, megawatts into a value, a currency in a way, or whatever you want to describe it. Versus say, hospital obviously is a case where they definitely can't, and they're not going to cancel surgeries or delay a open heart surgery because, we got to cut demand here this hour. But for most businesses though, what's the best way if they want to participate in this? You saying probably just do some batteries or some backup generation and stuff?
So it really depends. This is the way that I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have any assets right now, and you don't have much need for long-term resiliency, then batteries may be the best choice for you. And there's particular zones in which that's true, like ComEd and PSEG are great areas for a battery. If you do have a situation where, let's say you're a grocery store, right? So you don't have 100% need for a generator. Maybe you never got a backup generator. But if the cost for a backup generator was 20% of, the market price, then you'd definitely get a backup generator. Then for a customer like that, I would say backup generation, natural gas, if you have it available, is probably your best economic choice and gives you, intrinsic value. Because if you look at like HEBs that all got backup generation down in ERCOT, now they have a reputation as being running when the grid is out, which is a good reputation to have.
Wow. Okay. So this depends regionally on what area you are, what kind of incentives there are, all that stuff. How much, in curiosity, for like a 100 100 kilowatt battery, how much does that cost?
So 100 kilowatt battery, all in, installed, hooked up, and commissioned. It's probably around $100,000, maybe a little bit more.
And then as you increase it, the cost of scales come down a little bit. So maybe like a megawatt of batteries, a little under $1 million. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Batteries tend to, so they have electronics, and they have cells. The cells don't really have economies of scale, but the electronics do.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So awesome. Well, that's good stuff. And then of course there's incentives potentially with that and all that, and they can bring the cost down some more. And you got to factor it into if you can participate in demand response, you can,
Yes.
right now it's like what, over about $100,000 or so, right? Per
Right.
year.
So the economics for batteries are affected by the duration of the battery. So for a regular demand response program in PJM, if you have a battery, you're going to get derated. Like a 4-hour battery, I don't know what the duration rate is off the top of my head, but it's I think it's like 50%.
In duration, what do you mean by duration?
So they're not going to give you full credit for the battery.
Okay.
Because what PJM is going to say is, well, you have 4 hours of emergency response, but we could have an 8-hour event, a 16-hour event. So
okay.
we're happy that you're going to be around for 4 hours of it, but we really need you to have a longer commitment.
The same way it works when you're putting solar or wind into the capacity market. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then the other side of the equation is, okay, so you can get off of the grid during peaks. And the reason that matters regionally is because peakiness varies across zones, and when peaks happen vary across zones, and even the rules of when peaks can happen vary across zones. So some areas you can be pretty confident you're going to get the full value out of your battery by reducing during peaks. In some zones you can't.
Because transmission, forgot the other part of the equation, transmission's a demand cost as well. So
right.
And not to mention most of the utility bill is a determinant of a peak demand charge. So you can smooth that out as well. So awesome.
Well, that's another wrinkle, which we don't need to get into.
We don't need to get into. That's really getting in the weeds here. Maybe some other time. So Jim, tell me a little bit more. I just want to give you guys plug yourselves here a little bit. Tell me a little bit more FreePoint and what you guys offer in these programs.
Yeah. So if customers have, I think one thing that's helpful is if customers have an ability to reduce load or interested in reducing load, and they want to make that part of their retail deal, but they don't want to sign up for something where they have to make mandatory reductions like in a demand response program. We can get them value for that reduction capability in their retail bill. And then if they don't make the reductions, then they just won't get the value. So it ends up being sort of a voluntary program. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is, given where prices are right now, we can help customers get very reduced priced assets over time. So the way that works, just to make it very simple, is that we have a longer term deal with the customer where they buy power from us. The power is going to be at a stable price over time. And then they're going to let us use the asset when they don't have a grid outage. And then they have the right to use the asset when they do have the grid outage. And we're going to use the asset to reduce the cost for the load. And we're going to pay the customer for the right to do that. So that's the short version of it. I think it's, right now you have the choice to pay your tag charges, and it's it's 2.5 cents, and get nothing for it, or you can get an asset that's at a very reduced cost. You still have to pay that same cost, but at least you get an asset out of it at the end of the day, as opposed to throwing the money away.
Right. That's good stuff. Really appreciate it. Well, appreciate it, Jed. Have a great rest of the summer. We'll be in touch. I know we're working on a few interesting deals with you guys right now with some of our brokers and customers. So continue to bring some more your way. You guys have really interesting stuff, and always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Excellent, Scott. Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, thanks, Ellie.
Well, that was interesting stuff, Ellie. What'd you think of that?
Oh, it's awesome. It's really interesting to, I mean, be looking at these markets every day and talking about, okay, well, but we've got the floor, we've got, we've got the cap, we've got all these different ways to price it. We've got different ways of talking about demand between what it means for an individual customer versus what it means to the grid versus what it means for our pricing fund. But I mean, it's all connected, but it's a big conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, really the way I look at it is like when the floor and the ceiling came out, it's like we all knew the ceiling was coming in, right?
Right.
The capacity auction was coming out. It was more fun to this. The real interest was like, see, gosh, how low is the reserve margin to go? What would have been the actual capacity cost if it hit this stuff? And it was like it was eyeballing it, just crazy to see that 700 number per comment, because this is where I live at. And just to understand that level, because back 3 years ago, it was around $4 to $5 a megawatt hour was your capacity cost, and that would have put up to 40 to 50. I mean, that's just, whew, it's crazy. I mean, it's like, and the thing is this is probably, I don't foresee that this is going to continue with the floor and the ceiling, and have it be capped. And when it does, it's going to come out. So these capacity costs are going to continue to go higher. They're not going to go lower. One thing is just make sure in your contracting, if you're doing a fixed, all fully bundled product, make sure you understand where that capacity price is, because if they're pricing it at the floor, for the next, out through the next 5-6 years or 4 or 5 years, you're got some years in there where it is going to be higher, and you'll probably be subject to adjustments. So be careful of that, everybody. But that's a side note. But also just how integrating and understanding these programs now and taking advantage of it, and getting a battery or finding ways that you can sync things in, and you're going to get these payback, and you get these in definitely in the mid-single digit years, 4 or 5 years, you'll get this payback. And then you'll have this program as those costs go up. And in the meantime, you also have it available for emergency situations, high LMP prices. And there's programs you can get to. So we've partnered, not with just FreePoint, but many others. FreePoint's great on these kind of programs and working with our customers. So it's great. Do you want to tell me about Thrive, Ellie?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, we want to talk about Thrive. This is AppDirect's annual conference. This is our second year at Thrive. We are so excited to invite all of our advisor and broker and consultant partners to join us out in Los Angeles this year, starting September 29th, running through October 1st. So a really great way to just, finish out your Q3. If you guys are interested in coming to Thrive, you'll get to learn more about Box, but you'll also get to see great talks from all sorts of products and services across the AppDirect portfolio. There's a ton that we can do, whether it's, security and mobility, something that's kind of on the telecom side, running all the way up through the tech stack, whether that's, cloud services, AWS, those types of things. And really excited to be talking more about energy efficiency, sustainability, talking about some EV chargers and some water efficiency, in addition to obviously our bread and butter, energy supply and strategic procurement. So come talk to us. If you guys are interested in attending, reach out to Box, reach out to your account manager, and we'll be able to get you some more info.
And I think there's like discount tickets, or it's free or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's really a great conference, and you'll be able to meet Allie in person. I unfortunately have another conference
That's true.
But Allie will be there, and you'll get to meet her in person, and maybe she'll buy a drink for you. But hey, everybody, great seeing you again. Enjoy the next month, and we'll pick it up again next month. We're gonna have some I think we got some plans, some really cool talks about some of the alternative kind of products out there, some kind of, I guess, sustainability areas of different ways to manage some other costs and bring costs down. Because it's all right now, if you're showing value, is you're not going to show value by savings of your contract now versus 2 years ago or 3 years ago, a year ago. But you can show your clients value by showing them ways they can save money, demand response, but also some other stuff that we'll be showing next month. So looking forward to it. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.